I was in the attic looking for my daughter Maya's baby blanket when I found the old shoebox. It was tucked behind a stack of Christmas decorations covered in dust, labeled in my mother's handwriting. Sarah, elementary school years. I hadn't seen this box in probably 20 years. My mom had given it to me when I moved out at 18, said it was full of memories I might want someday. I'd tossed it in the attic and never looked back. But now, at 36 years old with a 7-year-old daughter of my own, I was curious. I brought it downstairs and opened it at the kitchen table. Inside were school photos, report cards, artwork I'd made in second grade, a friendship bracelet from a girl named Emma, who I barely remembered. Normal stuff. Memories from a childhood I'd mostly tried to forget. My childhood hadn't been terrible exactly, just lonely. My parents divorced when I was 5. My mom worked 2 jobs. I spent most of my time with babysitters or alone. I didn't have many friends. I was the weird, quiet kid who read books at recess and ate lunch by herself. The photo was near the bottom of the box. My 3rd grade class photo from 1995. 23 kids arranged in 3 rows on the school steps, all wearing our best clothes, most of us with terrible haircuts. I spotted myself in the front row, small for my age, wearing a purple turtleneck and glasses that were way too big for my face. I smiled, remembering that day. The photographer had made us say cheese 17 times because someone kept making faces. I'd been so excited to get the photo, thinking maybe this year I'd look pretty, maybe this year I'd fit in. "What's that?" Maya asked, appearing at my elbow like kids do. "Old photos from when I was little," I said, and "can I see?" I handed her the class photo. She studied it carefully, the way 7-year-olds do when they're trying to find their parent in old pictures. "Which one is you?" she asked. I pointed to my younger self in the front row. Maya looked at the photo, then at me, then back at the photo. Her eyes went wide, and then she screamed. Not a little surprised scream, a full-on something is very wrong scream that made me jump up from my chair and grab her shoulders. "Maya, what's wrong? Are you hurt?" She was staring at the photo like it had come alive. Her finger was pointing at someone in the back row, a woman standing behind the students, the teacher. "Mom," Maya said, her voice shaking. "Mom, that's Miss Chen. That's my teacher." "What?" I looked at where she was pointing. The teacher in the photo was young, maybe mid-20s, with long dark hair and a bright smile. She was standing at the end of the back row, one hand resting on a student's shoulder. "That's Miss Chen," Maya repeated. "That's exactly what she looks like." "That's my 3rd grade teacher." I laughed. "Honey, that's not possible." "This photo is from 1995. That was almost 30 years ago. Your teacher would be in her 50s by now." "But it looks exactly like her," Maya insisted. "Look!" She ran to her backpack and pulled out her school folder. Inside was a flyer about parent-teacher conferences with a photo of the faculty. She found her teacher's picture and shoved it at me. "Miss Jennifer Chen, 3rd grade teacher." I looked at the photo, then at the woman in my childhood class photo, then back at Miss Chen. They looked identical, same face, same hair, same smile. Not similar, identical. "That's weird," I said slowly. "It's her, right?" Maya said. "It's the same person." "It can't be, sweetie. People age. This has to be her mother or an older sister or something." But even as I said it, something felt off. I looked at the back of my class photo to see if there were any names written down, just the date. October 1995, Mrs. Patterson's 3rd grade class, Riverside Elementary. Wait, Mrs. Patterson, not Miss Chen. "Maya, who was your teacher in this photo?" I asked, pointing to the young woman. "That's Miss Chen," Maya said stubbornly. "And no, I mean, what does it say on the photo?" I looked closer. There was small text at the bottom I hadn't noticed. "Riverside Elementary, Mrs. Patterson's class, 1995. Pictured, Mrs. Patterson with student teacher, Miss J. Chen." Student teacher. So this woman had been a student teacher in my 3rd grade class, which meant she would have been maybe 21 or 22 in 1995, making her about 50 now. I looked at the faculty photo again. Miss Jennifer Chen looked maybe 30 at most. "Okay, this is definitely weird," I said. "Can we ask her?" Maya asked. "Can we ask Miss Chen if this is her?" "I guess we could," I said. But something about the idea made me uneasy. What if it was her? What were the odds that my daughter would end up in the exact same classroom I'd been in, with the same teacher, almost 30 years later? That night after Maya went to bed, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I got on Facebook and searched for Jennifer Chen. There were hundreds. I tried adding teacher and Riverside Elementary to the search. Still dozens of results. Then I remembered the school website would have more information. I pulled it up and found Miss Chen's bio. Jennifer Chen has been teaching at Riverside Elementary for the past 5 years. She graduated from State University with a degree in elementary education in 2018. If she'd graduated college in 2018, she'd been born around 1996, a year after my class photo was taken. So it couldn't be the same person, unless she'd somehow lied about her age, which seemed unlikely for someone who had to pass background checks to work with kids. I looked at the two photos side by side on my computer screen. The resemblance was unnatural, not just similar features, but identical. The same small mole next to her left eye, the same slightly crooked front tooth visible when she smiled, the same everything. I took a photo of both pictures and sent them to my best friend Kate with the caption, "Am I crazy, or are these the same person?" Kate called me immediately. "That's the same woman." "It can't be. Look at the dates." "Then it's her mother." Or they're twins. Or she's a time traveler. Kate laughed. "Sarah, this is wild. What are you going to do?" "I don't know. Maya wants to ask her about it." "You should." I mean, what's the worst that could happen? You find out your kid's teacher has a doppelganger? That's kind of cool. After we hung up, I kept staring at the photos. There was something in the student teacher's eyes in my old class photo, something that made me uncomfortable, like she was looking directly at the camera, directly at me, even though I was standing several rows away. I went to bed but couldn't sleep. I kept having strange dreams about being back in third grade, sitting at my desk, and Miss Chen standing at the front of the classroom, watching me with those same eyes from the photo. The next morning, I decided to email Miss Chen. I kept it casual. "Dear Miss Chen, my daughter Maya is in your third grade class. While going through old photos, we found a picture from my own third grade class at Riverside Elementary in 1995. There was a student teacher in the photo who looks remarkably like you. We were wondering if she might be a relative of yours. Just curious. Best Sarah Mitchell, Maya's mom." I attached the photo and hit send before I could overthink it. Maya was excited when I told her at breakfast. What if it really is her mom? What if she's like a vampire or something who doesn't age? Vampires aren't real, sweetie. But what if they are? What if Miss Chen has been teaching third grade for like 100 years? I laughed, but my laugh sounded forced even to my own ears. The response came that afternoon while I was at work. I was a paralegal at a small law firm, usually busy, but that day I kept checking my email every 5 minutes. "Dear Mrs. Mitchell, thank you for reaching out. What an interesting coincidence. That must be my Aunt Jennifer Chen. She was a student teacher at Riverside in the 90s before moving away. We were actually named after each other. She's my father's sister, and I'm named Jennifer after her. People always comment on how much we look alike. It's quite uncanny. She passed away several years ago, but I'm honored to be teaching in the same school where she once taught. I'd love to see that photo if you could bring it to parent-teacher conferences next week. Best, Jennifer Chen." I read the email 3 times. It was a perfectly reasonable explanation. The student teacher had been Miss Chen's aunt. They'd looked alike. They'd had the same name. The current Miss Chen had even been named after her aunt. So why did my hands feel cold? Why did something feel wrong? I showed the email to Maya when I picked her up from school. See? It was Miss Chen's aunt. They looked alike. But Mom, they don't just look alike. They look exactly the same. "Families can have strong resemblances," I said. "You look a lot like me when I was your age." It was true. Maya had my dark curly hair, my green eyes, my small nose. People commented on it all the time, but she didn't look exactly like me. She had her father's chin, his smile. "Did you have Miss Chen's aunt as a teacher?" Maya asked. "No, she was just a student teacher." "I had Mrs. Patterson." "Do you remember her?" "The aunt?" I thought about it. Did I remember a student teacher in third grade? That was almost 30 years ago. I remembered Mrs. Patterson, who'd been strict but fair. I remembered the classroom with the reading corner and the hamster named Chester. I remembered the field trip to the science museum, but I didn't remember a student teacher. Shouldn't I remember? Student teachers usually stay for a few months. Surely I would have some memory of her. That night, I called my mom. She lived in Florida now, had remarried, was busy with her new life. We talked maybe once a month. Mom, do you remember my third grade teacher? Third grade? She paused. That was Mrs. Patterson, wasn't it? Or was that fourth grade? It was Mrs. Patterson. But do you remember if there was a student teacher that year? A student teacher. Sarah, that was 30 years ago. Why are you asking about this? I explained about the photo, about Maya's teacher, about the resemblance. My mom was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I do remember something. I remember you had nightmares that year, bad ones. You kept saying someone was watching you. I did? You don't remember. You'd wake up crying, saying someone was in your room, watching you sleep. I took you to a therapist. She said it was probably from the divorce, from stress, from spending so much time alone. It went on for months. I had no memory of this. What happened? Did it stop? Eventually. I think around the end of that school year, you just stopped having the nightmares. The therapist said you'd work through whatever was bothering you. After we hung up, I sat in the dark living room trying to remember. Third grade, Mrs. Patterson's class. Had I had nightmares? Had I felt like someone was watching me? I couldn't remember. But then again, I'd spent most of my adult life trying not to remember my childhood. The loneliness, the feeling of being different, of not fitting in anywhere. I went upstairs and dug the photo out again. I looked at the student teacher, Miss J. Chen. She was standing slightly apart from the group, her hand on a student's shoulder. The student was a boy in the back row. I couldn't see his face clearly. Wait, I recognized that boy. Tommy Chen. He'd been in my class. I remembered because I thought it was funny that he had the same last name as the student teacher. Were they related? Had the student teacher been at our school because her nephew was in the class? I grabbed my laptop and searched for Tommy Chen. It took a while, but I finally found a LinkedIn profile that seemed right. He was a software engineer in California now. His profile picture showed a man in his mid-30s with the same face as the boy in the photo. I sent him a message on LinkedIn, feeling slightly crazy. Hi, Tommy. This is Sarah Mitchell. We were in Mrs. Patterson's third grade class together at Riverside Elementary in 1995. I'm trying to track down information about a student teacher we had that year, Miss J. Chen. I believe she was related to you. Any information would be helpful. Thanks, Sarah. I didn't expect a response. Who responds to random messages from people they barely remember from elementary school? But Tommy responded the next morning. Sarah, I don't remember having a student teacher named Miss Chen in third grade, and I don't have any relatives who were teachers. My last name is Chen, which is very common, so maybe you're thinking of someone else. Best of luck, Tommy. I stared at the message. He didn't remember Miss Chen? But she was in the photo, her hand literally on his shoulder. I looked at the photo again, zoomed in on the student teacher's hand on the boy's shoulder. Something about it looked wrong. The angle was off, like the hand had been added after the photo was taken. I opened the photo in an editing program and increased the resolution. The more I looked, the more certain I became. The student teacher had been photoshopped into the picture. The edges around her were slightly too sharp. The lighting on her face didn't quite match the lighting on the students. But that didn't make sense. This was 1995. Photoshop existed, but it wasn't common. Who would have photoshopped a student teacher into a class photo? And more importantly, why? I was supposed to have parent-teacher conferences with Miss Chen on Thursday evening. It was now Tuesday. I had 2 days to figure out what was going on. I called the school district office and asked to speak to someone in records. After being transferred 3 times, I got a woman named Barbara, who sounded like she'd been working there since the school was built. Hi, I'm trying to find information about a student teacher who worked at Riverside Elementary in 1995. Her name was Jennifer Chen. 1995, Barbara said. We might have records from that far back, but they're all in storage. What do you need to know? I just want to confirm she actually worked there and find out what happened to her. Can I ask why? My daughter's current teacher has the same name and looks exactly like her. She says it's her aunt, but some things aren't adding up. Barbara was quiet. Then hold on. Let me check something. I heard typing, papers rustling. Several minutes passed, but ma'am, Barbara's voice was different now, careful. I don't show any record of a Jennifer Chen working as a student teacher at Riverside in 1995. I don't show any Jennifer Chen working in our district at all until your daughter's current teacher was hired in 2019. But she's in the class photo, I said, like that's odd. Our class photos are taken by the same photography company every year. They don't typically add people who weren't physically present. Could the records be wrong? Could she have been there, but not officially registered? It's possible, but unlikely. Student teachers have to be registered with the district for insurance purposes. If she was there should be a record. After we hung up, I felt sick. Miss Chen wasn't in the district records. Tommy didn't remember her. She'd been photoshopped into my class photo. None of this made sense. I called Riverside Elementary and asked to speak to the principal. After explaining who I was put through to Principal Edwards. Mrs. Mitchell, how can I help you? I have some questions about Miss Chen, my daughter Maya's teacher. Is there a problem? Maya's doing well in class as far as I know. No, nothing like that. I'm just trying to verify some information about Miss Chen's background. She told me her aunt was a student teacher at Riverside in the 90s, but I can't find any records of her. There was a pause. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm not sure what you're asking. Miss Chen's employment records are private. I'm not asking about her employment records. I'm asking about her aunt. I'm afraid I can't help you with that. Is there anything else? I could hear the dismissal in his voice. Actually, yes. Would it be possible to move Maya to a different class? Another pause, longer this time. May I ask why? Personal reasons. Mrs. Mitchell, we're almost at the end of the first semester. Moving a student now would be very disruptive to her education, unless there's a specific problem with Miss Chen's teaching. There's not. I just think a change would be good. I'm sorry, but without a specific educational or safety concern, I can't approve a mid-year transfer. Is Maya in danger? Was she? I didn't know. I didn't know anything except that something was very, very wrong. No, I said finally. Never mind. After I hung up, I sat at my desk at work, staring at the class photo. If Miss Chen hadn't been at Riverside in 1995, who had added her to the photo? And why? I needed to talk to other people who'd been in my third grade class. Maybe they remembered something I didn't. I found a Facebook group for Riverside Elementary alumni and posted the photo. Does anyone remember Mrs. Patterson's third grade class in 1995? Trying to track down a student teacher who might have been there. Thanks. The responses started coming in within hours. I was in Mrs. Patterson's class. I don't remember a student teacher, though. That's me in the second row. Man, we were young. No memory of a student teacher. I remember Mrs. Patterson. Don't remember anyone else teaching that year. Nobody remembered Miss Chen. Out of 15 people who responded, all of them classmates who were actually in the photo, nobody remembered a student teacher. Then I got a private message from someone named Emma Torres. Sarah, we need to talk. Can you call me? She included her phone number. The name Emma Torres meant nothing to me, but I called anyway. Sarah, the voice on the other end was nervous. This is Emma. Emma Rodriguez back then. We were best friends in third grade. Best friends? I had no memory of having a best friend in third grade. I'm sorry. I said, I don't remember. I know, Emma said, nobody does. That's the problem. What do you mean? We were best friends. We sat next to each other. We ate lunch together every day. We had sleepovers. And then one day in February of 1996, I just stopped existing to you. You looked right through me like you'd never seen me before. That's not possible. I would remember. Do you remember having nightmares that year? I froze. How do you know about that? Because you told me. You told me someone was watching you, someone who looked nice but wasn't nice. Someone who wanted something from you. For who? You never said. You were too scared. But then after February, you stopped talking to me. You stopped talking to everyone. You became that quiet kid who ate lunch alone. And I moved away that summer, and I always wondered what happened to you. Why are you telling me this now? Because I saw your post about the student teacher, and I remembered something. We did have a student teacher that year. Her name was Miss Chen. She was only there for a few weeks, maybe a month, and she was obsessed with you, Sarah. She watched you constantly. She'd volunteer to help you with your work. She'd find excuses to talk to you. It was weird. Mrs. Patterson even mentioned it to your mom at one point. My mom never said anything. Your mom was working 2 jobs. She probably didn't think much of it. Teachers pay attention to quiet kids sometimes, trying to draw them out, but it wasn't like that. Miss Chen was intense. And then one day she was just gone. And the next week you were different. You were scared all the time. You had those nightmares, and then you just forgot everything, including me. I don't remember any of this. I know, and that's what scares me. Because now you're saying your daughter's teacher looks exactly like Miss Chen. Sarah, I think you need to keep Maya away from that woman. My hands were shaking. Emma, I have parent-teacher conferences with her on Thursday. Don't go. I have to. Maya's expecting it, and I need answers. Then don't go alone. I'm serious, Sarah. Something happened to you in 3rd grade. Something that made you forget an entire friendship, forget a whole chunk of your childhood. And I think Miss Chen had something to do with it. After we hung up, I sat in my car in the work parking lot and tried to remember. Tried to pull up any memory of Emma, of friendship, of Miss Chen, of whatever had happened in February 1996. Nothing. Just a blank space where those memories should be. I picked Maya up from school that afternoon and watched her carefully. She seemed normal, happy, excited to tell me about the science project they were doing on plants. No signs of anything wrong. Do you like Miss Chen? I asked as we drove home. Yeah, she's really nice. She helps me with math when I don't understand something. Does she ever pay special attention to you? More than the other kids? Maya thought about it. Sometimes. Like she asked me a lot of questions about our family. About you specifically. What you do for work, what you like to do for fun, stuff like that. My stomach dropped. What do you tell her? Just normal stuff. That you're a paralegal and you like to read and we watch movies together on weekends. Has she ever asked about your dad? A couple times. I told her you're divorced and he lives in Seattle now. Maya, honey, from now on, if Miss Chen asks you personal questions about our family, I want you to tell her you'd rather not talk about it, okay? Why? Because our personal life is private. It's okay to have boundaries with teachers. Maya looked at me strangely. Are you mad at Miss Chen? No, sweetie. I just want to make sure you know it's okay to keep some things private. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Emma had said. Something had happened to me in 3rd grade. Something that had made me forget. Around 2 a.m., I got up and went to Maya's room. I stood in her doorway watching her sleep. She looked so small in her bed, clutching her stuffed bear, her dark curly hair spread across the pillow. I'd do anything to protect her. Anything. And if Miss Chen was somehow dangerous, if she was the same person who'd been in my classroom 30 years ago, if she'd done something to me that made me forget, I needed to know what I was dealing with. Wednesday morning, I called in sick to work and drove to the public library. They had newspaper archives going back decades. I searched for anything from February or March 1996 related to Riverside Elementary. Nothing. No incidents, no problems, nothing remarkable. Then I tried searching for Jennifer Chen. Hundreds of results, none of them relevant. I tried Jennifer Chen teacher and got a hit from 2019, a newspaper article about new teachers joining the district. There was a photo. It was her, Miss Chen, looking exactly like she looked in my daughter's classroom, looking exactly like she'd looked in my 3rd grade photo. The article said she was 24 years old, a recent graduate. But if she was 24 in 2019, she'd been born in 1995. She couldn't have been a student teacher in 1995. Unless she'd lied about her age, unless her whole identity was fake. I drove to the school district office and asked to see Barbara again. When she came out to the lobby, I showed her the newspaper article. This is the Jennifer Chen who teaches at Riverside now. You said you don't have any records of a Jennifer Chen before 2019. Barbara looked at the article, then at me. That's correct. Is there any way to verify her credentials? Her college degree, her teaching certificate? That would have been done before she was hired. All our teachers are thoroughly vetted. But could you check? Please? I think something's wrong. Barbara studied me for a long moment. Wait here. She disappeared into the back offices. 20 minutes later, she returned with a manila folder. I shouldn't be showing you this, she said quietly. But I pulled Miss Chen's file. Her degree is from State University, class of 2018. I called the registrar's office to verify. They have a Jennifer Chen, who graduated in 2018 with an education degree. Can you verify it's the same person? They sent over her student ID photo from her records. Barbara showed me a printout. It was Miss Chen, looking exactly the same. What about her teaching certificate? Issued by the state in 2018. Everything checks out. Can I see a copy of her driver's license? Barbara hesitated. Why are you so concerned about this? I told her everything. The class photo, the resemblance, Emma's call, the fact that I couldn't remember anything from that period of my childhood. When I finished, Barbara was pale. That's very concerning. But I don't know what I can do. All her paperwork is in order. There's no official reason to question her employment. Please, I said, just let me see her ID. I need to know if her age is real. Barbara looked around the empty lobby, then quickly opened the folder and showed me a copy of Miss Chen's driver's license. Birth date, April 12th, 1995. She would have been 6 months old when my class photo was taken. This has to be fake, I said. She's using someone else's identity. If that's true, she passed multiple background checks, Barbara said. The FBI fingerprints all teachers. If she was using a fake identity, they would have caught it. Then how is she in my class photo from 1995? Barbara didn't have an answer. I left the district office and sat in my car, trying to think. Miss Chen had legitimate credentials under an identity that placed her birth in 1995, but she looked exactly like someone who'd been a student teacher in 1995. Time travel? No, that was ridiculous. A clone. Even more ridiculous. Unless... What if Miss Chen, from 1995, had a daughter? What if that daughter looked exactly like her mother and was now pretending to be her? But why? Why come back to the same school 30 years later? Why pay special attention to my daughter? The daughter of someone she'd apparently targeted in 1995. Parent-teacher conferences were tomorrow night. I had less than 24 hours to figure out what to do. I called Emma again. I need you to remember everything you can about Miss Chen. From 3rd grade, everything. I've been trying, Emma said. It's like there's a fog over those memories. I remember she was there. I remember feeling uncomfortable around her, but I can't remember specifics. Did anything happen in February? Anything that might explain why I stopped talking to you? There was a field trip, Emma said slowly, to the Science Museum. You and I were supposed to be partners, but Miss Chen volunteered to be your partner instead. She said you needed extra help or something. When we got back, you were different, quiet, scared. What happened at the museum? I don't know. You wouldn't tell me. And then a few days later, Miss Chen was gone. Mrs. Patterson said her student teaching was finished and she'd moved on. But it was sudden, like she was there one day and gone the next. Did anyone ask questions? Adults don't usually explain things to 3rd graders. We just accepted it. After we hung up, I searched for news articles about the Science Museum from February 1996. There was one article about a special exhibit that had opened that month. Optical illusions and perceptual psychology. The exhibit had included something called the mirror room, where visitors could see multiple reflections of themselves from different angles. I called the museum and asked if they had records of school groups that had visited in February 1996 After being transferred several times, I got a woman in the archives department who said they might have old visitor logs in storage, but it would take time to find them. How much time? A few days, maybe a week. I didn't have a week. Parent-teacher conferences were tomorrow. There was an exhibit about optical illusions and mirrors, I said. Do you remember hearing about any incidents during that exhibit? Any children getting lost or separated from their groups? No, nothing like that. But I can look into it if you give me a couple days. I spent the rest of Wednesday afternoon searching online for anything about memory loss, amnesia, dissociative disorders in children. I found articles about how traumatic events can cause children to suppress memories, how sometimes the brain protects itself by blocking out experiences that are too difficult to process. But what trauma? Emma said nothing, obviously bad had happened. I'd just gone on a field trip and come back different. That night, Maya asked if I was excited for parent-teacher conferences. Miss Chen said she has a lot of good things to tell you about me. She said I'm one of her best students. That's great, honey. Are you okay, Mom? You've been weird the past few days. I'm fine. Just tired from work. Miss Chen asked about you again today. I tensed. What did she ask? She wanted to know if you were feeling okay. She said you seemed stressed in your email about the photo. Miss Chen had noticed my stress. Of course she had. What did you tell her? I said you were fine. Was that okay? That was perfect, sweetie. Thursday arrived. Parent-teacher conferences were at 6 p.m. Maya was excited, bouncing around the house after school, talking about how Miss Chen was going to tell me all the good things about her work. I decided to go. I needed to see Miss Chen face to face, needed to ask her directly about 1995, about what had happened to me. But I wasn't going alone. I'd asked Emma to come with me. She'd driven in from Portland 3 hours away because she'd said this was too important to ignore. We met in the school parking lot at 5:50 p.m. Emma looked older than I'd expected, but I guess we were all in our mid-30s now. She hugged me like we'd known each other our whole lives, even though I still had no memory of our friendship. Are you ready for this? She asked. And no, but I'm doing it anyway. Maya was with David, my ex-husband, for the night. He'd agreed to pick her up from school and take her to dinner so I could attend the conference alone. He'd thought it was weird that I didn't want Maya there, but he hadn't pushed it. We walked into the school together. The halls were full of parents and teachers, everyone smiling and chatting. Normal. Everything looked so normal. Miss Chen's classroom was at the end of the third grade hallway. The door was open, warm light spilling out. I could see her inside, talking to another set of parents, gesturing to student artwork on the walls. She looked up and saw me, smiled, that same smile from the photograph. My blood went cold. Sarah Mitchell, she called. I'll be with you in just a few minutes. Emma grabbed my arm. That's her. That's exactly her. She hasn't changed at all. We waited in the hallway. I watched Miss Chen through the doorway, watched her talk and smile and gesture. She looked so normal, so nice, like any other elementary school teacher. The previous parents left. Miss Chen waved us in. Mrs. Mitchell, come in, come in. Is this your friend? This is Emma, I said. She's here for moral support. Of course. Miss Chen's smile didn't waver. Please sit down. We sat in the small chairs meant for third graders. Miss Chen sat at her desk, pulled out Maya's folder, started talking about her progress in reading and math. I let her talk for a few minutes. Then I said, Miss Chen, I need to ask you something. Of course. I pulled out the class photo and placed it on the desk between us. This is you, isn't it? This isn't your aunt? This is you in 1995. Miss Chen looked at the photo. Her smile never changed. Mrs. Mitchell, I told you that's my aunt. I wasn't born yet in 1995. Your driver's license says you were born in April 1995. This photo was taken in October 1995. You would have been 6 months old. Exactly. So it can't be me. Then why do you look exactly the same? Why hasn't your aunt aged in 30 years? I don't understand what you're suggesting. Miss Chen's voice was still pleasant, still calm. but her eyes had changed. They were watching me very carefully. I was in Mrs. Patterson's class in 1995. I said, I was in this photo. And I don't remember you. Nobody remembers you, not the district records, not the other students. It's like you were never there. Except you were, because you're in this photo. I'm confused about why this matters, Mrs. Mitchell. My aunt passed away years ago. I'm not sure what you want me to say. Emma leaned forward. I was in that class too. I remember you. You were the student teacher, and you were obsessed with Sarah. You watched her constantly. You separated her from her friends. You took her on that field trip to the Science Museum, and something happened there. Something that made Sarah forget. Miss Chen's smile finally disappeared. I think this conference is over. What did you do to me? I asked. What did you do that made me forget an entire chunk of my childhood? Miss Chen stood up. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. If you have concerns about Maya's education, you can schedule another time to discuss them. But I won't sit here and be accused of whatever it is you think I did. You were.